Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets today. Mike Herzog and I have a special guest, Ted Ifantis, um, who's coming in from Denver. And I want to introduce Ted. Ted, as I understand, you're a commercial pilot.
Yes, I was. I spent over 25 years in the industry. I was with the airlines for about 19 years.
Nice, nice. So I understand you're doing things specifically in Colorado and the charging industry. How did
Yes.
you end up getting to that? How did that come about?
It's a long story. I've always had a passion for systems, right? For electrics, hydraulics, pneumatics, things like that. And long story short, I ran into a charger at Denver University when I first moved here in March 2020, and I saw a receptacle.
Oh, there we go. Yesterday it was Bill. Today it's Ted. Well, that's all right. Well, I'm assuming he'll figure that out and come back in a second.
Yeah.
Wonder if I play around with this, if it makes it
A couple of times, turn it off and turn it back on.
Yeah. So we're seeing a struggle with the grid here. You know, he's having trouble with technology.
No, the big news I've been following most of the week is Spain and Portugal, the giant power outages they had across the country there. Those are significant. I'm going to be curious to see what their final verdicts are and how they come out, because that's what happened to the US 20 years ago, when the grid outages happened.
There you are. Ted's back with us.
We lost connection there. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
What you heard, I could start over.
Yeah, you're probably going to have to start again there. You started talking just about how you were really into electronics and things like that, and then
just naturally I had just a natural love for systems, for passion for hydraulics, pneumatics, electrics, things like that. And when I first moved here, March 2020, I lived across the street from Denver University, and I was on campus, and I walked past the garage, and I saw a level 2 charger receptacle on the floor. It said free, it had a sticker, it said free. And I knew it was a charger, but it sparked my curiosity. And that's where I kind of started. Okay, what's inside this thing? Who's the competitive landscape? And I kind of dove into it at that point. So
that was a great time to start looking in 2020 when to have one of those.
The ideas happened, and I would say the last 2.5 years where things have really just kind of taken off.
Nice. So you're focused on you're putting in chargers yourself now, right?
Yeah, so we're
as a company.
Operators. Yes, we have locations, 2 locations downtown Denver, where we're now upgrading those facilities to fast charging. They're level 2 chargers, but we waited 22 months, Mike, 22 months for the transformers for the 3-phase power.
Wow.
And exactly.
You happen to know what size you were looking at, like 2500s, 1500s, something like that?
It's a 300. It's only a 300 kVA bank. That's all
wow.
they give. Yeah, that's all they'll give me at this point. And they just want to. They say, put it up. Let's see what the demand is, and then you can go from there.
You can go from there. 22 months just on material.
22 months, yeah.
I was going to say I've heard horror stories before, but that's a pretty standard piece of equipment. That's a long time. Holy cats.
And so I'm assuming, would that run $50,000-$70,000 to get that transformer upgraded? Oh, and now he's not talking.
Maybe.
Try now.
Less than that. I bet those 300 kVA would be less than that.
You think so? Oh no! He took his earpiece out and then put it back in, and I suspect that shut it off for a second and probably going back to whatever device he's doing. Yeah. So we're having fun
what
with
he's
this.
Highlighting though it's a major topic in anything grid related today. It's just supply chain. It is still a lot of things have caught back up, but just business items. New transformer, green box for your backyard, poles, anything with metal especially is just so hard to get. It's been a struggle.
Mike, I do have a solution to the problem. I can get transformers in switchgear and things like that in 6 to 12 weeks. But the problem is, I don't know if you know about this, an electrician explained it to me, is that the power companies won't allow it though. They won't accept any other equipment. it has to be their manufacturer and their supply chain, because someone kind of explained to me like an airline. If I'm flying United Airlines, it's like using an American airplane to fly United. That's kind of the concept.
Yeah.
How can we get around that? How can we get these transformers?
So it's probably spelled out in like people call it different things, but like a meter specification manual or standard manual or whatever it is, and it said we will furnish this piece of equipment, this piece of equipment, this piece of equipment. It meets our specs. We procure it. We put everything in like that. So, I mean, one push, I don't think they'd go for it, is you get their spec sheet and say, it has to be this, this size, except this type of connection, this type of adapter, whatever it might be, and go that way. But they still probably don't want to do that because they have their own supply chain and procurement processes. The other ones, a lot of them offer is, they call it like primary metering, where it's you are the owner, you are responsible for everything downstream of that. Like they set their meter, give you, a 5% discount because they don't have to buy the transformer or do anything like that. But then the rub is you're responsible for all the maintenance. And if anything happens to that transformer or anything along those lines. So you can do it and set it from a primary metering standpoint, but you're going to be responsible for all the maintenance. Otherwise, if they own it, it's not, I don't think they're going to let you use your equipment.
Yeah. Okay. And that maintenance, is it expensive? Is it something that's regular maintenance? Is that something that can get really expensive?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's expensive if it breaks, because if it's utility owned, then they'll replace it.
Right.
If anything happens, they'll go through all of those. But I mean, it's just, most of it for the first 20 years is going to be, make sure it's not rusting out, maybe put a coat of paint on it, hire somebody to clean it out. It's not, on an individual level, it's not too crazy.
I see.
That's not a good experience, though, trying to do something good for, the citizenry, and the EV community, and you're facing, a utility company that's probably pro EV, right? Because it's more customers, and more juice being sold, right? And 22 months, I know what I've dealt with in building housing subdivisions and getting, power to just a new subdivision. It can be really, you can wait for 6 months for them to start work, when you think that they should be able to get on it pretty quick.
Right.
So one of our listeners, Joel, was talking about the current electrical system. Everyone had an electric vehicle and tried to charge at the same time. The lines would glow orange. Well, there certainly wouldn't be capacity. I mean, this is one of the problems in California where they have all these brownouts, is because everybody goes home, and it's not electric vehicles, but their AC kicks on when they get, real high when they get home from work, and they're doing things around the house. They have the lights turned on and all that. And California grid has, they have so many people there that they can have challenges with making that work. That's one of the reasons why people are encouraged to charge their EVs at night. And in California, they have an abundance of wind energy, and the energy is cheap. And, so that makes for a big change. Let's see. 500 plus major transformers in America. China supposedly built over 247 of them. I don't know. I don't know if it's that simple or not, that they could turn them off remotely. You do kind of.
It's a different world than it was certainly 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But I always used to tell people they'd be worried. Oh, cybersecurity, it is always a risk. It is always trouble. But at the end of the day, those control rooms, transformers, everything like that, like there is a physical switch that somebody can go throw and say, connect to the outside world, don't talk to anybody else that's not in this room, like switch to that. So at the end of the day, there is kind of this fail safe of, you can run locally on everything. And yeah, going back to their previous of lines glowing orange and everything like that, hopefully in a well-functioning system, the circuit's going to trip way before that happens, because you're getting to the annealing point where it's going to melt and cause permanent damage. So we always want to try to prevent that from happening. And yes, electric vehicles, if not managed, could trip a line, blow a fuse or anything like that. But I agree with the air conditioning comment. They're not too much bigger than an AC. It's just if the AC and both your EVs and your neighbor's AC and all the AVs are running, maybe you might trip something. But
yeah, I always tell anybody that tries to tell me the grid isn't prepared for everybody to switch to EVs. It's like, man, wait till you hear about artificial intelligence. The grid's not ready for that at all. I mean, this is one of the current worries is that China is going to pass up the U.S. in artificial intelligence because we don't have the energy to devote to artificial intelligence in the United States. And China is like, hey, the people don't need air conditioning. We can run data centers. The data centers need air conditioning. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So it's kind of a different perspective. Ted, so here's one of the things. So, and only just in the past year have any of the publicly traded charging companies been able to start making some gross profit, some legit gross profit on their things, because the usage of their chargers has sort of caught up, to where they're beyond a break-even point. What are you seeing in Denver? And I know you've been doing level 2, and you're just now switching to level 3 charging, right?
Correct. Yes, and I pay attention to the competitive landscape. Obviously, the really big companies like EVgo, ChargePoint, those companies, Electrify America, they, for example, EVgo, they're I think 80% increase in revenues. Yeah, it's like a significant increase, and they're showing they are showing profits, very small profits, but they're building their network, right? Everyone's right now in the building phase. And from what I understand, from what I hear, I know people within these companies, but there's kind of a talk within the industry that the price per kilowatt has to go up, right? Right now, it's it's a selling point of, it's cheaper than gas, but you buy an EV, there's no maintenance, it's cheaper than gas, it's worth it, But for the margins to really increase, to make this profitable, I think the industry is talking about a 97 kilowatt hour for charging. But
Jeez.
yes, that's what I'm hearing. That eventually it's going to have to go there to have the proper margin. Yeah, make it profitable. So, and I think everyone right now is just, we got to get chargers out there. We got to make it so that people go buy EVs and they know they can get charged easily. I think eventually that's where it's going to
go. Colorado average state cost is about 15 cents per kilowatt hour. We're in Nebraska where it's 12, so we're one of the cheaper states. But you've got plenty of states where like California where it's 31 cents.
Yeah.
But so when you've been doing, what were you charging for level 2 charging?
So we were charging level 3 prices for level 2s. We were able to do this because we are downtown Denver, prime real estate. It's a very busy area, and all the competitors, we were beating competitors because everyone was like in a garage somewhere with an 8-10 hour charge. We had we had a 48 amp unit, so we were twice the speed of anybody else, pretty much. And so we were able to charge level 3 pricing with a level 2, but that's just because of our location. We're a prime location there.
So are you on street charging then?
Yes, on street. Yes,
Nice.
We're in open parking lots.
Open parking lots. Okay.
Open parking lots. Yeah. But so that's what we were charging, and with our new level 3, so when we're upgrading to level 3, we're not gonna change price. We'll probably be about 60 cents a kilowatt. Once we get operational, we literally just got the power installed 2 weeks ago. So we're just in the process of line diagrams and things like that to get things going. So we're probably looking at a good 3-4 months before we get operational.
Now, Joel, so he's, so let's say the retail price of electricity is 15 cents. I don't know what you're actually paying to do this, and if you're charging 60 cents, doesn't matter whether it's level 2 or level 3, he's still just charging by the kilowatt hour. The people are using his service because they're going to be parked there for a while. They've got something, worth going and doing, and it's worth adding some juice to their battery. So it doesn't really, I wouldn't see a difference in the pricing if you were, doing publicly.
Yeah,
another thing,
still a commodity. You're still paying a price for a unit of commodity when everything's said and done, and you just get it a little bit faster. So I don't.
So,
Well, David, also there's I'm sorry. There's also something very important to acknowledge is the demand charge, the peak time charge.
Mhm.
And what's unique about Colorado right now, and this could change at any moment, is that like in California, I don't know for sure, but I hear it's like $48 a kilowatt. You know, when they determine in a month, in a 30-day period, your demand charge. Like say you have 6 cars that pull up at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, and they take a snapshot and see that peak charge, and then they charge you per kilowatt, like $48. In Colorado, it's only $3. So the state is very progressive, and it's promoting EV charging for now, but that could change at any moment. The state could say,
is that price unique to EVs for the demand charge?
Yes.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, well, Colorado is very pro EVs. I mean, you've got new and used cars. You've got amazing state rebates on top of the federal. I mean, I've seen some things where there was leases on like Fiat 500Es that were basically free. So you could basically drive the car with no payment for like 2 or 3 years. You had to put down a deposit, and that was pretty much it because the lease deal was so good on the car. I know, and so that was kind of crazy. So Joel is asking, why not build geothermal power plants in Yellowstone? I guess it's not going to erupt anytime soon. So I have an interesting comment of that. So I know Ted because of a friend of ours, this Professor Alan Tratner, who runs a green incubator program called Green to Gold. They're a nonprofit that's based out of Hawaii. Well, Professor Tratner is one of the original founders of Earth Day. And so he has big Earth events in Maui every year. And he's a really respected member of, the people who are trying to save the planet kind of thing. And he introduced me to Ted. And Professor and I have been discussing geothermal because they have a geothermal plant in Hawaii that had a problem with lava. Lava shut down the plant.
A little too thermal.
Yeah, it got a little too thermal, yes. And it couldn't handle the 1950-degree lava very well. So they haven't gotten it back up and operating. I don't remember how many years ago it got shut down, but it did seem like a pretty good thing. But he and I have been discussing geothermal because there's this company called I think it's Fission something that's trying to do Generation 3 nuclear reactors that are buried a mile underground. And he's like, well, if you're going to dig down a mile, we might as well just do geothermal.
Well, David, they are building the first SMR in Kremling, Wyoming.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this.
Yeah, the first small modular reactors. So they are.
So there's a couple things. There are small modular reactors that already exist in the United States, but they're Gen 3.
Oh,
okay. And so I'm doing some work in the Gen 4 space. There's not a functioning Gen 4 nuclear reactor in North America yet. Okay. And some of that there's been companies that have shelled out. Mike and I were talking about this. NuScale shelled out $500 million in development and was still fighting with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to get one of these done. China has one online. Okay. It just went online in the last few months. It's not at full capacity. They're still running some things on it, but we don't have a functioning Gen 4 reactor. I do consulting for a company that's looking like it's going to have the first one in the US, first one in North America. It's going in Canada. And Canada is much more friendly on the regulations. There's actually a lawsuit going on right now by several US states and companies against the Nuclear Regulatory Commission because they're making everybody stick to 1954 standards. And we're talking 71-year-old standards that, have worked pretty well in the United States. The only incident we've ever had was 3 Mile Island, right? So, they've done a pretty good job of that, but the new technology, Gen 4 reactors can't melt down, as a for instance. So this is one of the things. It has to do a lot with the type of fuel they're using, but it's really interesting to see. Now, let's get back because we've kind of gotten behind on keeping up with some of the people asking questions. Okay, Owen saying, figure almost everyone has a 100 amp service at home, most probably 200 now. You're telling me they won't design the grid for people to use a quarter to half of that capacity at the same time. I think we're going to not really see people go beyond level 2 charging. One of the things is you can charge your car at home and, a few hours, and generally a lot of people charge every other day or maybe just once a week, but it's not really that they need to pull that much power to get their car charged up. Now, I suppose if you're driving a Hummer or a Silverado, it might be different.
Yeah. Plus, a home is single phase, right? And fast charging is 3-phase. That's a big difference.
It's a big difference, and I think they're still going back and forth. Like, why is the grid prepared for this? Or is the home network grid prepared for this? And like the short answer is yes. Newer neighborhoods, you bet, they're sized that way. However, I mean, the grid is designed and planned with a relatively high level of coincidence factor. Where no, if everybody turned on all of their stuff all at the same time, the grid could not handle. Same with the water system. If everybody flushed their toilets at the same time and turned their sinks on at the same time, there's just not enough pressure on that system to go around.
So Elon did it wasn't just a year. If you bought, it was lifetime. If you bought a Model S or a Model X, I think 2020 or older, you currently can get free charging on a Cybertruck. But I'm not sure what that time span is. I don't think they're offering the lifetime deal anymore, though. But they did that for quite a while when they were first getting into it. The COP of a heat pump is 5. I don't think we will need volcanoes to make geothermal. Well, with the idea, though, of the geothermals, if it's spinning the steam turbine to create electricity, then it's just another source of a power plant. So I don't think it's not that they're just piping heat everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So here's one thing. So Iceland, if they're doing 90% of their power with geothermal, they've obviously figured something out. Hawaii apparently didn't do it right. Okay, I'm just saying there's a really big geothermal project going on in Nevada right now, which, if it works out, it's going to produce massive amounts of power in the western states. But it's one of those things that they're doing it like in a mountain range or something. And, Mike, you and I have talked about this. You lose a lot of transmission, or a lot of power in transmission if you're going very far. That's the only thing. Nevada's a remote state.
Grid. It's just because there's Rocky Mountains are in the way.
Yeah. So, when you think a lot of times about what it costs to produce electricity, you have the cost at the source, but then you have all of this transmission loss. Mm-hmm. Transmission is when you're paying your electric bill. A really big chunk of that is you're paying for transmission. You're not really paying so much for the generation of the energy itself. And so that's a little bit deceptive. With two 200 amp services tied to an inverter, you can run 3-phase things, supercharger, really fast charging. Yeah, but once again, unless you need to charge your forklift or, you're really doing a lot of driving. I mean, you have to be,
the application they're talking about has been popular in ranching forever. I mean, that's a ranch runner. That's 3, single to 3-phase, but it's add a leg on those.
How difficult to make everyone flush their toilet simultaneously. That's probably a real problem. I've never really thought about that. Next time, don't get enough power to the toilet. I'll be thinking about that.
I mean, what's the halftime at the Super Bowl, or something like that, like
right?
I mean, that's okay. That's when that's stress the most.
Yeah. Oh God. So, I'm assuming, Ted, you're hoping to have a lot more locations throughout Denver and maybe Colorado at some point.
Yes, we do. So we're in the growing phase right now, and so we're owner operators with my brand Supercharge. But then we also, companies hire us to build charging sites. We have a couple projects we're doing right now where we are co-branding with them. So yes, you'll see Supercharge growing within Colorado next year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. What do you find, other than the power company taking 22 months to give you a transformer, what kind of other hurdles are you seeing?
That's the biggest hurdle. Everything else, the equipment's comes. I have a great supplier, a great product that I use. my team, I have a solid team. So construction wise and a gear, switch gear. So we said transformers, but switch gear as well. Once you start getting above 400 amps, Mike, you probably know really like a 600 amp panel it could take 18 weeks, or more.
Yeah.
So
And
it's just
it's expensive too. As soon as you have to
oh my God, very expensive, very expensive. Yes. But those are the only challenges we really have right now.
That's great. That's great. What do you see? So I see all these different things with technology and the supercharging. Like Tesla's now doing what, 500 volt? They were at like 350 volt.
They have 1,000 volt. The average Tesla charge is what, 250, I believe, 250 kW. Is that what you're saying?
Like that.
Yeah, 250 kW. But they have it's called the V4. It's really cool. It looks like a little leg. So Tesla is future proofing for what their vehicles. You can see what's going to be coming out. Cars we have the technology right now where cars can charge in less than 10 minutes. That's out there. A Polaris has a vehicle that can charge in like less than 10 minutes. Toyota just announced a new vehicle. I don't know if you saw that, coming out in 2028. So
we don't believe Toyota.
Why not?
Unfortunately, Mike and I are big. We're skeptics of when certain companies announce stuff. Toyota's one of the ones when they announce something, just like whatever. Because and I see people dismiss a lot of stuff that Tesla says they're going to do. But when Tesla says they're going to do something, you usually do see it. It might come a year or two late, but it does show up. The other ones that we believe are BYD. When BYD says they're going to do something, it happens, even if they don't sell in the United States. And the other big one is ATL, which here in Nebraska we call cattle. But I get people all the time that complain it's CATL, not cattle. And it's like whatever. We're in Nebraska. We pronounce it how we want, right? So it's a regional thing, right? But for instance, cattle and BYD are working on 1.2 megawatt chargers. Okay. Wow. And I'm just like, oh, that's good. Let's park an SMR nuclear reactor right beside the charging thing so everybody can charge up their car.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. I mean, think about.
Yeah, David, there's a big push. I don't know if you're watching the headlines, but a lot of fleet operators, logistics companies are placing orders for electric semis. So that is coming, but they're restricted because we don't have a charging network for trucks across the country. They're specific to routes, right? They pretty much want the trucks back at base every night to charge. But that's a sector that's growing big time.
My personal opinion in that space, and they're doing it already in China. So there's 3,000 car battery swap stations in China currently. Okay, NIO and cattle are really big in that space, and BYD is joining in. Okay, but it makes some sense. But the thing is, right now, like we were talking about, these bigger chargers with more juice are coming, and for a car, if you can add, they're talking about adding 200 to 250 miles in 5 minutes. I mean, you don't really need, which is about the same as a battery swap anyways. You don't really need it. But when it comes to the big trucks, my thought is if you had two separate battery packs on each side of the truck, you pull the truck through the bay, it comes in, it swaps both batteries, because otherwise charging a semi is going to take an hour, 2 hours, even with two chargers on each side that are like megawatt chargers. It's going to take a while. So it'd make more sense to have them swapping out. And then those batteries are juicing up at the end of a chain of batteries, and they make all the semis take this, and a truck could be in and out in 5 minutes with fully charged batteries. And I think that's going to be the solution for trucking, but nobody's doing that in the States yet. This is only happening in China. But I think that's a better solution for big trucks, whereas, because waiting, now, one of the things is too, when you're dealing with the big trucks, you drive 5 hours, you got to take a break, right? And I think there's plenty of time that the driver has to be at a truck stop anyways, resting. right?
Yeah.
So there shouldn't really be an issue with the batteries not lasting long enough compared to if you were doing over the road. But if you were like a team, so you had two drivers swapping off, that doesn't quite work. But yeah, so, and we're getting more discussions here. Yeah, charging to 100% from 1% in 10 minutes. That's some major juice. Yeah, there's some issues there, but one of the things that comes in is a lot of these larger charging parks now are having solar and they're having battery backups to stabilize what's going on there at the site and to make that a little bit easier. Swapping batteries, take the risk getting a damaged battery. Well, here's the thing. These are automated facilities. It's kind of like an automatic car wash. So when you go in and you're having the battery done, you're not taking part of it, but the machine is swapping out the battery in the vehicle.
I mean, it's not like propane where you go and, oh man, I just turned in the nice tank and got this real junky one. That's quite, it's still very, very controlled.
Yeah. And like Owen's saying, the batteries also, those ginormous batteries that would be on the trucks, could be also load balancing the grid in that region too.
100%.
At the same time. So I think it serves multiple purposes. While you were offline for a bit, Ted,
Yes.
Mike and I were talking about the news about Spain and Portugal. Well, if you start looking at if everybody had electric vehicles and they had V2G, vehicle to grid installed, they could have load balanced out that whole crisis.
Right.
But they're having problems, kind of like, well, what, California maybe?
Yeah.
So there's definitely issues. So that's a good example. Cordless tool batteries are extremely robust at swapping, which is constant. But anyways, it's interesting to kind of see how V2G. Now, do you anticipate, are any of these folks that you're helping with and co-branding with, are any of them doing battery storage as well so that they can load balance for the grid?
Just right now, one of the locations, it's going to be a port operation. So yes, there'll be some battery storage there. But that's the only one I'm working on right now where we're going to have some battery storage.
Nice. Because that way you have the power on demand when you need it, and then you're not taking any power from the grid when that thing's full.
Exactly.
Well, you guys have favorable rates, but that's balance your demand charges too.
Exactly. Yeah. So it doesn't. It's exactly. But that could change. They could change at any time. So it's best to be future proofed to be ready for that. So. No,
absolutely. I've looked at some of these enormous charging parks that are starting to go in China. China's way ahead of us. They're probably 10 years ahead of the United States in the EV space. And there's a bunch of Scandinavian countries that are also 10 years ahead of us in the EV space. And so you see what's happening over in those places. And it's always funny. You always hear the stuff. It's like, oh, EVs don't work in the cold. It's like, well, why do they drive so much in Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden? Yeah, it's like, tell it to them. Or the Canadian taxi services that use Teslas. It's just,
David, the key to that is it's just a software thing where they could precondition the batteries. So the batteries, that's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think most of our crowd and listeners is aware of that. It's just funny though, because I get, you get so many, we get a lot of haters. I'm really amazed at how many haters watch our content. And I'm pleased they do, because it, gives us more credit for views and all that. But sometimes we have some controversial topics, like when Ethiopia banned gas cars. That one, man, I think that's the most commented on broadcast we've ever had. But anyways, is there anything you're seeing as coming up in the space that you think is good to share?
Yes, something else I'm working on. It's called eVTOL, the all-electric flying aircraft, air taxis.
Nice.
So I've been working on that in the background the last 3 years, and discussions with the manufacturers and also with the city. I've at a high level with the city. I've gotten approval to operate like a first route from like downtown Denver to the airport. They want to see it
Nice.
operation. Yeah, they want to see it operational, and that's a significant capital raise, and that's where we are right now. We're in the funding raise to get that funded. To get it operational. But I'm really excited about that. That's most of my
How many
background there.
how many
Yeah,
passengers are you looking to have in that?
it's a single pilot airplane with 5 passengers.
Okay, so
Wow.
6 total.
And
Nice. That, yeah.
and the key is it'll be at Uber price points. And
Wow.
it's all electric, vertical, right? Vertical takeoff and
Mhm.
land. And what's great about that is like for example, we're in Denver, Mile High, right?
Mhm.
So density,
Right.
altitude, affects performance and things like that. This is electric. It's not an aspirating engine. It's not a jet engine. It doesn't take a performance hit. Aerodynamically, it does, but not by power. So, but it's exciting because this could eventually, we got a big problem here in Colorado with the mountain towns, right? How do we serve it? The population here the city is growing. There's so much going on, and what is the solution for the mountains? People want to go skiing. They want to come, want to traverse back and forth to the mountains. This is another solution that can help in the future.
Yeah, so I've talked on here many times about Joby and Archer, and there's
Yeah.
been a couple of others that didn't work out, but like Joby and Archer are doing all right. There's things going on, particularly in the Middle East, where they want to start doing taxi service with the eVTOLs, and that's it's just a really cool space to be in.
It is.
And what is the largest prototype you guys have put together so far?
So I'm not a manufacturer, but the one manufacturer I'm working with is called Beta Technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And you could Google that online, see what it looks like. So this aircraft has been operating with the DoD, the Army, Air Force for the last 4 years. So it's got operational integrity. They're working out some kinks. The range is getting better. The speed's getting better. They're working on a thermal application for it's called a FICI certification, flight into known icing. So like icing since it's like a thermal. Since it's an electric airplane, right? There's no engine with hot bleed air. It'll use electric thermal application to melt the ice on the wings. So
Nice.
yeah, great
That's
product.
so-
Yep.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Because we look at these before and applications, and one of the big ones, it's get your flight hours in, training, airport transfer's been one, but the mountains is new. I mean, and because you can visualize, it's choke points. There are only so many ways in and out, and as traffic grows and everything comes up, it's an alternate to that. So that's an application I hadn't heard before, but I like it. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's one option, right? Like the city right now, their answer is I know they're extending the railways. They want to connect the railways. Right now, we have a train from downtown to Winter Park. They want to connect it to Steamboat and Vail and everywhere else. That's in the works. That's their solution right now. But this will be something additional because there are some operational considerations in the mountains, right? The winds, the mountains getting up high enough that these are unpressurized vessels, so you need supplemental oxygen. So there's some challenges.
Nice. Yeah, because you're getting up. I mean, would you be landing above 10,000 feet?
In some cases, you might be. Yeah, you might be. Like let's say you go to Leadville, right? Leadville's at 10,000.
Okay.
So yeah, but everywhere else, I think Eagle Airport is 8,000, and some other mountain towns, I'd say average 6,000 to 8,000 elevation.
That sounds exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that sounds exciting.
And,
now you're also
yeah.
Well, I was going to say you're also are you doing some things with solar as well?
We are. We haven't done any solar projects yet, but we have started a company in the solar for business commercial solar. doing commercial projects only. But we have not done a project yet. We're actively pursuing that as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. That's exciting about some of the stuff. I didn't know about the aviation piece. That's great.
Yeah.
You being a former commercial pilot, that's got to be, pretty exciting thing to be involved in. Yeah, Bill would have been real excited to have talked about that. Bill's a pilot. He does our Tuesday and Thursday show, and he's the founder of EV World. Yeah, if you don't know much about EV World, Bill founded the website in 1998. We're the oldest electric vehicle website that exists, and Bill's been in this in the electric vehicle space for a long damn time. Probably really since early 90s. I mean, they became basically, once lithium technology came to batteries, was kind of the big kicker. I mean, obviously there'd been electric cars in the 1800s, right, or electric carriages,
Right.
and but the technology really the funny thing is we were talking one time about a battery swap electric carriage company that was a taxi service in some city on the East Coast. They had like 100 carriages, and they came back and they did battery swaps for charged batteries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big circle.
Yeah, big circle. We're going back to old technology on some of this stuff. Yeah.
I use that when I teach courses. I was, what the first horseless carriage was. Like, it was electric. Like, that's 100%. The horseless carriage was electric. It wasn't the Model T.
Yeah, but then when gas first came out, it was like a nickel a gallon.
Right.
They found crude oil in Texas, and that's why we don't have EVs.
One of the big arguments we always hear about the EVs is that EVs aren't as green as you're talking about, but the truth is they're starting. The economics of electric vehicles have changed to where they're pretty much, if you're factoring total cost of ownership, Tesla Model 3 is cheaper than a few other really popular cars like a Toyota Camry. And you're starting to get the point now where you look at that slate truck that is coming out that's going to be $20,000 for a bare bones 2-seater pickup truck, and it's manufactured in the United States. I'd be real curious to see if they really can hit that price point. That's it's one thing to talk about that. It's a whole nother thing to release it to the market and that be the play. But it's going to be the base model is going to be like 20 grand with like 1,000 different options you can choose from to add to it, including having the company either sell you the wrap kit or them wrap it for you. And they have all these things as DIY. It's like, we're going to send you the truck and you want to add all these parts. We're going to send you all these parts. You can do it yourself. Yeah. But it said that you don't have to be a gearhead to be able to do these things. And so we're starting to see the effect as lithium batteries keep plummeting in price. One of the big arguments I hear all the time is that an aircraft with all those batteries in it isn't going to fly because it's too heavy, right? And it's like, well, you don't have, you're not carrying thousands of pounds of fuel at the same time either, right? So, I'm curious. Do you know what the battery pack in one of the eVTOLs weighs?
Yes.
Any thought?
It's about 8,000 pounds.
Damn.
Roughly. Damn. Yeah, they're heavy. They're heavy, but it's think of the power you got to generate there.
But what would be the weight of fuel if you were had similar capabilities in an aircraft?
For something, if you're gonna go from like say Denver International to Eagle, you're probably if you're gonna take a 5-seat like a helicopter, let's say. I mean, you probably take 2,000 pounds of fuel, 1,500. Probably 1,500.
So pretty good weight.
Yeah.
Just a matter of making the lift work, right?
Exactly.
Just aerodynamics.
Okay.
Well, anyway.
The high altitude, yeah.
All right. Well, Ted, I want to thank you for coming on today. This has been an enjoyable chat, and it's something we hadn't actually, some things we hadn't ever really discussed much on here. You're not our first guest from Colorado. We had, Emporia Energy on here.
Okay.
They make level 2 chargers and other things. They're somewhere in Colorado. I can't remember what town, but we've had them on here before too. But anyways, I want to thank you, and Mike, as always, appreciate you coming on here. I'll be back tomorrow with Mr. Bill, and hope to see you guys on here tomorrow, same time.